I know the title of this video is painful, and for anyone who has ever been betrayed, those words, "Why I cheated on my wife," they sound like the beginning of an excuse. They sound like a justification for a colossal moral failure. And perhaps they are. But if you're here, I want you to stick with me, because this story isn't actually about the act of cheating. That was the explosive symptom. This story is about the silent, creeping disease that destroyed my marriage long before I ever crossed that line. It's about the slow decay of connection, and that's a painful truth we need to talk about. My wife, Sarah, and I were together for 12 years. We built a beautiful, comfortable life, the house, the dog, the routine. And that was the problem. It was a routine. Somewhere around year 7, we stopped being two partners building a life, and we became two roommates efficiently managing a schedule. We had perfected the art of avoidance. We could talk for an hour about the mortgage rate or the dog's vet appointment, but we hadn't actually talked about our souls, about our fears, our dreams, or our disappointments in years. I felt myself fading. I felt invisible. I would come home and the greeting was always, "Did you remember to take out the trash?" Or, "Did you call the plumber?" Never. "How are you truly?" And I am just as much to blame because I stopped asking her the same questions. We were both standing in the same room, but we were separated by a massive, invisible wall of unspoken resentment and unmet needs. We were starving each other emotionally, but we were too proud, too comfortable, or too scared to admit that the marriage was dying. That emotional void became the why. You see, when you stop feeling valued at home, you start looking for validation everywhere else. I wasn't looking for a new love. I was looking for a witness. Someone to look at me and make me feel like I still mattered, like I was still interesting. I found that witness in a colleague. And initially, it was innocent. It was just a longer conversation after work, a text that focused only on me. A moment where I felt seen and heard for the first time in years. It was emotional infidelity long before it became physical. The day it happened, I didn't feel desire. I felt a desperate, suffocating need for escape. I remember thinking, if I do this, maybe the shock of the consequence will finally wake us both up. That is the twisted logic of self-destruction. The moment I crossed that line, I instantly realized that I hadn't found release. I had only found a deeper, more profound sense of shame and isolation. It wasn't worth the second. It was the lowest point of my life. The aftermath was a brutal, necessary explosion. When the truth came out, all the years of silence and avoidance were incinerated in a single night of raw, painful screaming. And in that wreckage, I saw the true failure. The cheating wasn't the failure of fidelity. It was the final, tragic failure of communication. My commitment didn't break in that hotel room. It broke over years of letting my wife and myself become strangers in the same bed. I betrayed her, yes, but more importantly, I betrayed the promise we made to keep talking, to keep fighting for the US. I had to face the devastating reality. I was responsible for destroying the life I claimed to cherish. The cost was astronomical. The pain I inflicted on her, the shame I carried, and the dismantling of 12 years of history. So why did I cheat on my wife? Because I was a coward. I was too afraid to look her in the eye and say, "I am lonely and I think we are failing." I chose a destructive secret over a painful truth. If you are listening to this and you are in a relationship where you feel unseen, where you are living parallel lives, or where the silence is louder than the words, please don't wait for a catastrophe to break the silence. Don't let comfort become apathy. Don't let your marriage die a slow, quiet death only to be noticed when the symptoms become explosive. Talk, argue, go to therapy, but above all, witness each other. Show up for the person you promised your life to every single day. Thank you for listening to my story. If this resonated, if you felt that slow drift, hit the like button and share your thoughts below. I'll see you next time.